Hello YouTube chess lovers and my friends, this is Gunjan here. Welcome to my 57th episode of Dirty Chess Tricks. In this episode, I'm going to show you a tricky and aggressive line and in fact a mini Rapruta against Pirc defense from the white perspective. The opening is also named as Mad Dog attack, as you will see that white is willing to sacrifice even queen for the attack. The opening arises after the following order: e4, d6, d4, knight to f6, knight to c3, defending on e4, and now the characteristic Pirc defense move g6. So planning is very simple. Black wants to play bishop to g7, castle, and then later on hit back in the center. And against this, white has tried various responses, but we are going to see one of the most aggressive one, which start with bishop to c4, and after the move bishop to g7, white plays his queen on a e2 square. Now this position has been reached many times in official FIDE games, and here black has tried various responses, but if you check the online database, you will find out that knight to c6 has been tried highestly, and it is logical as well, as white has weakened the d4 pawn. Why not to play knight to c6 and attack that weak spot? If you have seen this position first time, you might think white has to safeguard the d4 pawn, right? Well, guess what? Mad Dog doesn't have brain, and the only thing they know is bite the enemy very quickly, and accordingly, e5 is a fitting reply. Now the main line move over here is knight captures d4, but before we look at it, black has also tried other two knight moves, so let's see what we are going to do about it. The first move I want to consider is knight to d7, which is in fact a passive choice by black, and against this, if you want a solid game, you can play the move knight to f3, and I have attached a model line in the PGN. However, in the spirit of Mad Dog attack, my suggestion here is you should play this aggressive piece sacrifice. Bishop captures f7, bam! The point is, when black take our piece, we are going to get our piece back with the move e6. And by sacrificing this pawn, what we achieve is black king is permanently stuck at the center of the board. Here white can continue with knight to f3, and it doesn't matter whether black continue with bishop to g4 or knight captures d4. Both gives white a very aggressive setup. So if black plays bishop g4, we can continue with queen to e4, attacking the bishop, and after bishop takes, queen takes. Black can get his extra pawn with knight captures d4, but after queen to d3, I think black has a huge problem due to the simple fact that his king is going to permanently remain in the center, and for a pawn, this is a great compensation as white attack commences quickly with bishop to e3. Well, same goes if black captures the pawn immediately, as after knight captures d4, you can simply capture this knight, and after bishop takes and the move queen to c4, once the bishop retrieve, we can castle on the king side, and as I have highlighted over here, the simple but effective plan of campaign, and in all these lines, because black king is stuck in the center, white has very good attacking prospects in upcoming middle game. The second move I want to consider is knight to g4, which is in fact played in roughly 150 games. And against this, my recommendation is you should continue with bishop to b5, setting up a nice trap. Well, the main line starts with castle on the king side, but if your opponent is not familiar with this territory, then he might take on e5, thinking that yes, I can win the pawn. And yes, indeed, at first sight this looks completely safe for the black camp, except one problem there. White has this winning move, d5, and by force we are winning the piece. How? Can't black counterattack with the move a6? Well, he can, but after the following forcing sequence, pawn takes c6, a captures b5, and finally c captures b7, which deflect the guardian of this g4 knight, and at the end of the sequence, indeed, white emerge with an extra piece. So d captures e5 is right out of the equation. That means black has to castle on the king side. And after that, first of all, we are going to capture on c6 and then kick this knight with the move h3. And once the knight goes to the very poor square, we can continue with knight to f3, completing our piece development. So you can see by the end of this sequence, black gets some horrible pawn structure on the queen side, and the only way to get rid of this double pawn is to play c5 immediately, counterattacking the white center. But here comes GJ chess novelty, as all the games continue with d captures c5, and I have attached a sample line in the PGN in case if you don't like my recommendation. But I am going to propose a new move in this position which has been never played, and that is queen to e4. The good thing I like about this line is it stops bishop to b7 idea, which is the main trump card in black position. After rook to b8, we are going to capture on c5. And now you can see bishop to b7 is not possible due to the c6. So obvious response is bishop to a6, stopping white to castle on the queen side. But in mix of all this, what black has forget is white has won an important pawn, and after the move c6, I think engine confirms advantage. The baseline can go as follows. e6, trying to get d5 in, so naturally white response is force. White has to play bishop to g5, and once the queen move, the amazing but beautiful move, castle on the queen side. And now you can see the importance of c6 pawn. It completely blocked black attack on queen side. A sample accurate moves can go like this, d5, but white will keep supporting with queen to a4, not only defending but attacking the bishop, and after rook to b6 and the move knight to d4. I think we should stop here, as white has consolidated his extra material as well as his pieces are very nicely placed, and you can analyze by yourself and go into the depth, especially if you want to include this line in the tournament repertoire. Just for your knowledge, engine gives 1% advantage to the white camp, which is literally a winning one. Finally, let's see what is going to happen after the obvious move, knight captures d4 and attacking of a queen. Well, again here you can play bishop f7, and that's an alternative you can check out in the PGN. However, I like this queen sacrifice line, which goes as follow. E captures f6, knight captures e2, e captures g7, and after rook to g8 and knight g captures e2. Yes, indeed, white obtained 3 minor pieces for queen and a 2 pawn, which is generally not a good trade, but not in this position, as after bishop to h6, rook to g8, and now castle on the queen side. You can see every single white piece is in the attack, and look at black. Every single one of them are sitting at the back benches. Isn't that wonderful? When I was preparing this video, I have done some heavy research, and the most interesting part I found about this line is there are 122 games played in the database from this position, and amongst them the results are very shocking. 22 draws and only 28 loss. That means 72 win by white, which is quite a heavy margin. So practical point of view, this is a great position to play as a white player. Now there are no clear theory, so I like to show you a model game which will give you a very good idea how quickly white can rip apart black if black doesn't play accurately. This is a game between two strong GM where black continue with e6 and naturally white respond with h4, and the idea is very simple. Want to play h5 and liberate the h rook. Okay, black plays queen to f6, and as soon as the queen comes out, white target the queen with knight to e4, and when black counterattack with queen to e5, white safely negotiate with knight to c3, setting up a cunning trick, which black straight away fall into it. Well, who can resist the move d5 as you are winning the piece on the spot? But there is a big problem, and the problem can be highlighted with the following move order. Bishop captures d5, pawn captures d5, and now knight captures d5, and suddenly black can see the danger clouds are moving towards his king, as there are multiple threats here. Number 1, knight to f6, number 2, bishop to f4, and knight captures c7. Obviously, after a long thought, black find out nothing better than counterattack with f5. But now white game become very easy. Knight to f6 check, king to f7, and now the star move. Doesn't even bother about capturing the rook. Get your all big boys in the party. Rook to e1. And I'm afraid black is completely busted. Queen can't move as rook to e7 is a checkmate. If you try to defend with d6, then it is not going to help, as after knight captures g8, you lost an important piece as you can't recapture due to the knight e7 check, and the natural move bishop to e6 completely fails due to the simple tactics knight to f4, and black can literally pack his bag and go home. Well, in the game, black find nothing better than capturing on e1, but after rook takes e1, the rook e7 checkmate is on the card, so black has to defend it first. But then the task becomes very easy. Yup, you guessed it. Knight captures c7, attacking the second rook, and when that rook moves, we can simply lob up one of the rook in the corner, and that knight on g8 is still immune. So black finally decided to capture on c7, and at first sight it looks like when black get the piece back, he have at least chance of the draw. But guess what? That knight is coming out in a style. Before I move on, I'd like you to pause this video and find out how you are going to evacuate that knight. Did you find it? Let's see. The first move is very obvious. Square vacation with bishop to f4. and when black rook moves, we can deliver this check. But still it looks like knight has no future to come out, right? Well, here comes the master plan, and that is f3, g4. Sooner or later, the evergreen freedom will be on the card. Well, the game finished very quickly. Black tried the last desperate attempt, rook to c4. But after bishop to g5 check, king to d7, and now the finishing blow, knight to f7, and suddenly knight springs out with a wonderful gesture. The point is, you can't take this knight, as after rook to e7 check, king to d6 and rook captures f7, white is a whole piece up and not a single pawn down. That's it guys, I hope you enjoy and learn this wonderful mad dog attack against the Pirc defense. Remember, if your opponent capture on d4, take the knight on f6, sacrifice your queen, because this sequence only leads to the advantageous position to the white camp, and no matter however black wriggles, the result shows that it is only white who is bossing the game. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to like, subscribe and comment, and I will meet you in my next episode very soon. Bye and take care.